wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging in moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine. Living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging in moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine. In the Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of...
Hey, good evening and welcome to Fish Hunt Northwest. Wayne England, Kelly Barnum here in studio. Josh behind the board there making it all work, finally.
Yep.
Kind of. We're here on Facebook tonight, no YouTube. We do apologize, so if friends are calling you saying, hey, isn't Fish Hunt Northwest on? Tell them, yeah, you got to get your YouTube or your Facebook account up and going, Dad. I've been telling you for years to get that done.
Yeah,
so
and do us a favor. If you see guys in the comments commenting that YouTube isn't working, tell them to hop on Facebook because we have trouble keeping up with it sometimes.
Yeah, anyway, so we're halfway there, but we had a much higher viewership on our Facebook, so we opted to go with Facebook tonight, and I will upload the entire production when we're done, Barnum, and we'll put it up on YouTube this evening. So with that, we are here, you are here. I want to remind everybody, and boy, it's been active the last couple of weeks once again with all the information we're putting out there on our Facebook page. A number of articles we've posted up, and just good conversation, lots of topics going on. We're going to cover a ton of stuff tonight. We have the Grays Harbor shut down, the Chehalis Basin, as it were, completely shut down from last Sunday. We have some controversial discussions going on referencing the Columbia River Gillnet reform, rollback, move forward, roll back again, and now it's kind of in a holding pattern, but we're going to get everybody up to date on that and the actual allocation or springer season, as it were, of what's to come. Hopefully, we do have opportunity there with a decent number of fish showing up at some point. So lots to cover in that regard. We got House and Senate bills failing or passing, depending which side of the fence you're on, relative to guns and magazines and assault weapons and all those things. So tons of things going on. You know, the legislators right here in our back door out of Olympia here, and we're still in legislative session till mid-March. So a number of things to discuss, Barnum. We got Chase Gunnell here, Communication Director of Conservation Northwest, joining us this evening. We're going to cover a lot of ground with him. Got your buddy Oren Jensen here from Okanogan.
The one and only.
The one and only.
Yeah, he doesn't get to this side of the state very often, and he brought the sunshine with him.
I saw. Yeah, I shook his hand because I didn't want to piss him off. He's kind of a tall fella.
Yeah, he's a bit of a big guy.
Kind of a big guy. So a couple guests joining us later on, but lots of info to get through prior to introducing our guests later on the show. With that, I want to remind everybody, Fish Hunt Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Pacific Commons, real estate located in Puyallup, Washington, and of course, Defiance Marine located in Bremerton. Whether you're seeking out an Allied boat, an Arima, or a Defiance, they got it all there, and they got a nice supply of used boats that are up for sale. Matter of fact, the Fish Hunt Northwest boat is actually for sale. Yeah. Go to our Facebook page, check it out. It's a 2015 Raider 182 Pro Sport. That boat has been a fantastic boat, Barnum. We've bloodied it up a number of times.
Right.
And
I was going to say, funny you talk about their used inventory tonight.
Yeah, weird. But we need to get that boat sold as we can get working on that 21-foot Allied that's going to be parked here in the driveway, hopefully.
Nope, JJ has not sold it yet.
Nope.
So waiting for you.
Waiting for you, JJ. Gonna look good in that boat. We even leave the decals on it if you want. That's up to you. So anyway, contact us and check out that boat. We even get you out on the water fishing here in the next month if you want to take it out and see how it handles. So moving forward, remind everybody, hey, we still got a ton of swag that we're selling. Yep. Get a hold of us on our Facebook page. message Sherry or Shing on our messenger there and inquire about whether you want decals. We got a number of different decals, all different types of hats. We even got this new FHN camo Flex Fit. I think, yep, Flex Fit. And that one's been actually become pretty popular. Going to give that away tonight and a couple worm packages from WFO, another one of our wonderful sponsors here at FHN. So you got some worms, got a hat. We're giving that away in a little bit later in the show. But yeah, we got lots of swag. Get a hold of Sherry. We got quarter zips, hoodies, vests, t-shirts, long sleeves. She's running a t-shirt special, and we'll have to, I think she's going to post something up later here on the show that's going to explain what she's doing with t-shirts, long sleeves, or a t-shirt and a hoodie, some type of combination. So, with that, you're in town. Got some wrestling going on.
Yeah, Wrestling State, the MAC Classic.
Yeah.
My youngest son qualified for the MAC Classic. That's why Oren's on this side of the mountains.
Right.
His son qualified for the MAC Classic, so the Tacoma Dome is going to be hopping this weekend.
This weekend. Huddy goes tomorrow, first round, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
what weight?
126.
Yeah, believe it or not, Brian, when I was a sophomore in high school, that was my weight class.
Right.
125.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Oren's son is not 126.
Weird.
Not coming from those genetics.
No, not coming from the east side. No,
Right.
the women over there aren't even 126.
Us West Siders talk about them corn-fed east side boys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Leighton's an animal.
You'll see him. You'll see Oren later on when he joins us here on the show. So, with that, let's delve right into it, my friend. So, this last week, obviously, there's a lot of pissed off folks with the Chehalis going closed. Not just the Chehalis itself, but the tributaries. And there's a host of them that feed into that system in the Chehalis Basin. And not the entirety of Grays Harbor is closed. Hump Tulips is still open.
Okay.
However, it's been struggling a little bit. And as we get through this, guys, we get to understand there's a little bit of concern in that, by closing such a vast area of a lot of rivers, it puts obviously much more pressure on the few rivers that remain open.
Right.
And we don't need to remind everybody, everything up north and all Puget Sound closed down. Now we're looking at the majority of Grays Harbor closed down. It just pushes the pressure out towards the coast. The hump, move on out towards Clearwater, and then you get out to the coast.
Right.
Name any of those rivers.
Washington rivers.
Yep. So, yeah, Southwest Washington rivers, and there's a host of them. And a lot of them are small streams that aren't used to a lot of pressure. A lot of them, fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, are locked up by land and farmland and whatnot.
Right,
so,
access can be tough.
Access can be tough. But it is just a telling sign of what's been going on. Steelhead numbers are down. It initiated in December with really poor hatchery steelhead returns.
Right.
Is where we saw the first shutdowns up north of a number of rivers, and we went through over all them numbers earlier on, December, January. We continued to cover that. Now it's shifted down here into the Chehalis Basin, and there's some things going on, and maybe, folks, yeah, I get it, you're mad. Is it the right thing to do? Is WDFW just rolling over because the tribe said, you better shut the rivers down? Or is there more layers to this thing? And I often like to think there's more layers to this thing. And I just want to kind of walk through kind of the progression and some things that have happened to to find us where we are, right? So, with regard to that, Chehalis was closed down on Sunday evening. The co-managers, the Gunnells, had initiated the conversation probably towards the end of January, saying, hey, we are opting to not fish February 1st. Our nets will be out of the river. And true to their word, they were. And they listed that as a conservation concern. They said they weren't going to fish. Now, I get it. Everybody was like, well, how can they even gauge how it's performing? They hardly fished in January. We had flood conditions, lots of high water. Nets weren't in. Yeah, I get all that too. But for the handful of days that the nets were in, the numbers are out there. They're public information that's available if you know where to look. They had successfully retained, I believe, 240 steelhead. And I don't know what percentage were wild.
Right.
I have no idea, but they had put their catch data out there through the end of January. So they're not fishing February. The department then is in a position to say, well, based on conservation and going into this season, they knew there were going to be 2,000 fish below escapement needs. They made that perfectly clear. 2,000 fish below escapement needs. So the tribes opted not to fish. Now, do you want to be the agency that's the co-management side of that relationship going, well, we're going to fish, the heck with you guys, Because, oddly enough, we are right in the midst of north of Falcon. We have negotiations going on with both sides of the table, and it's just one of those you probably don't want to poke the bear too much because you might find yourselves in a conflicting conversation, very tough to get through north of Falcon. I'm not saying that was put out there. This is my and Barnum's kind of spin on the whole deal. But you got to think about cause and effect, I think, at some level, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a legitimate concern when you sit down at that table and one co-manager says, hey, we erred on the side of conservation. Did you?
You guys kept fishing.
Right. You guys kept fishing where we shut down. And so then it puts a weird kind of spin on the negotiations from that point. Because now, is this group erring on the side of conservation or are they not?
So a few things that are, obvious when we talk specifically about the Chehalis and how this season was or was not performing. Much like everywhere else in the state, December was dismal. Runs were down, hatchery production was horrible. Very much, concerns were basically statewide on the west side. As we got into January and we got through the high water and river conditions dropped and were what we referred to as prime time, emerald green, time to go fishing, you got to remember the nets were out. So this is another one that kind of raises the flag and raises the question for me, Barnes. Like the nets are out February 1. About February 10, 11, fishing was just going
off the charts.
Just ridiculous, right? High numbers of hook to land ratio, multiple boats per day in double digits, a good mixture of hatchery and wild fish. Some boats would report it was like 3/4 wild. Some boats were recording it was half to 3/4 hatchery. It just kind of depended. But these rivers out here in the Chehalis Basin saw an extreme uptick in pressure, and the overwhelming majority were in to fish for multiple days in a row. So right there you're going, how can they shut this down? There are so many fish, it's ridiculous.
Do you know if the agency had fish checkers at boat launches, getting creel reports? No, they don't.
I had I'm not saying they never do, but I had asked, are we doing in season to actually, we don't have any way to gauge how the run is either over or underperforming when the nets are out. That is one tool that WDFW relies on to truly gauge how the run is performing. Well, with no nets in the river, what's your next choice? You put creel samples at the takeouts. And you talk to all fishers coming down the river to say, how was your day? Can I see your catch? Then you're wanding to see if you got any, pit tags or anything on these steelhead. You start accumulating data to say how many percentage of hatchery versus wild encounters. And
that's why I was curious, because I was wondering if they were seeing these catches coming in with higher numbers and going, whoa, we know we're under escapement and the catch numbers are way higher than we thought they'd be. Maybe we should do something.
Yeah, so that would be a legitimate reason to shut it down. They didn't have any of that. The other question I asked was, the Wainuchi is a great example of how you can truly track number of fish because they have to put the fish over the dam. Or they have to recycle fish back downriver. So wild fish get pushed up and over and hatchery fish get recycled back down to a point, and they had recycled 350 to 400 fish. I don't know if that number is truly accurate, but those were the numbers that I was informed of. They also had put 160 fish above the dam. Some of those could be hatchery because it's an integrated stock. And there's kind of, with the brood stocking that's going on, it's integrated. So they move fish up and down and just, but I asked and they weren't able to give me those numbers. In my mind, if you're going to shut down a fishery, we should at least be able to gauge how it's performing. And maybe they did. Maybe they truly know how it is or not performing based on wild numbers, and there's a concern in those tributaries. The bottom line is the Chehalis system is managed by Basin. So they don't break out specific tributaries to say Skookumchuck is going to close, Wainuchi will stay open, Satsup's going to close, Main Chehalis will close due to conservation concerns. They're not there yet. The reason these conversations come up because that type of ideology really, I haven't had those discussions with folks before. And previously we had other folks who were in the Region 6 office as director and fish program manager. We now have folks in there that are looking at the data from the last 3 years previous and said, we need to make some change. We haven't made escapement for the last 3 years. I appreciate the Gunnells, the co-managers, coming to the table and saying, we have a conservation concern. We're not going to meet escapement based on everybody's agreed we're going to be 2,000 fish under. But where were they 3 years prior? WDFW and the Gunnells basically agreed to fisheries on the Chehalis system for a full-on, full-season fishery. both conducting tribal net fisheries and recreational opportunity through the end of March and into April for the Gillnets. Knowing that the runs were going to be forecasted or were forecasted under escapement.
Right.
So 3 years prior, I'm not saying it maybe wasn't discussed, but it wasn't publicly announced, or nobody knew that there was a conservation concern.
Right.
But they went ahead and conducted full-on fisheries anyway. Last year, fishing was terrible in some regards for a number of folks.
Right.
It was tough, and there was no discussion of shutting it down or anything. So I don't know whether I should go, well, the last 3 years, I'm having a hard time understanding all of a sudden the urgency, or if I should say, it's about time. Thank you for being conservation-minded and finally making the decision to move forward.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's frustrating because when you look at the historical performance or underperformance and you exercise full-on fisheries, and then all of a sudden just this year you go, up, we're closing her down. You have a lot of persons, guides, making a living that had already booked out through the end of the season.
And what's the return rate on steelhead? Is that an every 2-year fish? You know, how often it comes in, it spawns,
18
it
months
goes back
to
out.
2 years,
so
yeah.
18 to 2 years.
Yeah, but then,
so maybe that feeds into their thinking a little bit on the conservation ideas. They look at it 3 years ago and they fished through it and had low escapement, and now they see the escapement coming, and now these fish should be returning again, and numbers were bad then. So maybe that's how they looked at it in a sense.
not
this
sure,
year
yeah.
they go.
Not sure what the driver was on that, but you know,
Devil's advocate.
Sure, no, I mean, they're making some conservation decisions that hopefully will change the narrative.
Right.
And you know, James Losi is a friend, and he's taken that on now in that position as manager, and he's got some serious concerns, and he's trying to get collective minds, guides, you know, persons in the industry and persons in the community to understand that what we've been doing isn't working. How do we change that for the better? How do we recover this before recovery isn't an option?
Right.
The guy's he's a smart guy. Now he's going to piss off a lot of people because at some point you got to stop the bleeding.
Right.
And you got to move forward with it. And I know there's a lot of people that are very upset, especially on the heels of a week of fishing that performed like we hadn't seen since the 80s, in the words of some of the guides.
Right.
And I can, so you got to separate emotion out of it.
Yes.
And you got to come back down to, is this the right move for conservation?
Right.
And now, if we were told we couldn't fish and the co-managers were still harvesting fish, and like if they go back in April and harvest fish, there's going to be an issue. But I was told there has been no indication that the co-managers have any interest or, you know, hidden agenda that they're going to start dropping nets back in April or even in March. Right. They've said, we're done. We are done for this month or for this season. Right. Let's move forward and see if we can, you know, bounce this back.
Right.
We have,
because that is some of the comment I've seen on Facebook is, well, as soon as we pull out, they're going to go right back in.
Yeah.
Right. And there's been no sign of that.
There is a lot of information out there on Facebook, and people can get pretty heated and start throwing stuff out there to see what sticks. But at the end of the day, if we're doing it right, and we all can agree. Now, you know, I applaud those that fish further to the other side of the harbor, the hump tulips and out towards the coast, that are advocating to say, our river hasn't been performing that strongly. We're not seeing very many wild fish. How about we shut this one down too? Right. Because they see the influx of pressure, especially on the weekends, the amount of people that are going to start showing up fishing those rivers. We're going to talk to Tommy Tucker later on in the show, who fishes Southwest Washington and the coast. And he was fishing this last weekend while this basin was still open. We're going to talk to him of what he's maybe projecting to see and where he's going to try to go hide southwest or coast as we roll into this next weekend, because we are going to see a tremendous influx of folks that have already reserved their rooms out at the coast. You know, we got some weather coming that we'll get into later, but things to think about is the amount of pressure now and the amount of catch and release on wild fish. And there's some studies that would indicate, they came out of Canada, but you know, catch and release multiple times on some wild fish, they may not be as excited about spawning. You may have hens hold their eggs, not necessarily dig a bed and just, you know, release them just because of time. So conservation doesn't just mean shut it down so there's no fishing. Conservation also is taking a look at it on catch and release mortality, pressure, boots on the ground, number of encounters, and how we interrupt the natural path of fish that are migrating upriver. There's a lot to that, right? So I get it. Folks aren't happy. They feel like there's not enough answers out there. I tried to get more answers out of WDFW. At this point, they feel like they've provided a pretty good amount of information, and for the most part, I think they're being, face value on this stuff. They're not happy with the decision, but they know that's probably the right decision to make. So if you guys have other things to throw in here, comment-wise, make sure you get on here and blow this up and let us know how you feel, or what your true position is on this. Are you one that says the conservation move, albeit it's frustrating because coho was dismal, certain areas Chinook fishing was bad, Puget Sound collapsed late in the season for coho, and now on the heels of all that, we go into a steelhead season that was questionable, and ultimately, we had talked about it back in January. Right. We might see closures out here on the basin. Right. Didn't know if it would happen, but there was a concern, and lo and behold, we did. We're there. So just trying to clear the air and try to get it all figured out for folks, and hopefully that gives you either a little bit of insight or even more confusion. I don't know. Right. So,
well, you understand the frustration. Me, especially like back in my guide days when those catching fish and being able to take those pictures and post them on social media, those are seat fillers. And when you're catching fish like that and you can put it out every day, you're filling seats with that. Your message board is blowing up, people wanting to get on your boat. And so you get excited. Well, we can make some money here. Yeah. Finally. It's been a while since we've been able to actually turn over and make some dollars here. Yep. And then, boom, they shut it down. And it's just like pulling the rug out.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of friends out here that guide, and they work hard. Yes. And, one of them, we lost a boat this last week here on the Wainuchi. Right. And that was also a day of serious problem and concern for a number of folks. And we've had a few boats and pontoons go down this last week. So thankfully everybody made it out okay and everybody's good, but that boat's still there, and not sure when going to be able to retrieve it, but we got a lot of guys that are putting everything they got into this, and that it'd be like somebody showing up to you and saying, hey, you want to build that house today, but we're going to make you wait 3 months. Right, yeah, you just got to sit on your hands. No, that's happened. So
that's been my life story for the last 3 months.
I guess the pending concern now is to see what happens moving forward as we look at the amount of pressure potentially on some of these other rivers, and how do you gauge or monitor that cause and effect, and does it get to the point where the voices are saying, hey, shut it down, and does WDFW make that move? I don't know. Right. I have no idea. I'm waiting to see what...
All we got to do is watch and see.
Yep.
That's all we can do.
Watch and see. Right. So, and just before we jump off of that, I got some charts here that show what the preseason forecasts were for a number of rivers. And the Squally River might just barely make escapement. Puyallup and White, they've been running a broodstock program up there for a number of years with a kind of a conglomerate there between the Puyallups and the Muckleshoots, and the state is aware. It is going to be well below escapement needs. Chehalis River, well below. Hump tulips, just barely squeaking above escapement needs. We're talking wild fish. When we're talking management, hatchery doesn't matter when you're talking about gauging these successes and failures on wild fish. Clearwater and Queets, quite substantially below what they need to make, and there's a bunch of them here, but just some of the more common rivers folks are familiar with. It's just a bad year all around. Yeah. Bad year all around. Steelhead are struggling. So that's where that is at. Right. Let's talk a little bit about guns.
Maybe positive news after that? Maybe the gun stuff is positive news this week?
We have that, and actually some of the things we'll get into on the springers in the Columbia River when we're done talking guns. We can shed a little light on some positive activity. So what do you got in the realm of guns, legislation, laws passed, and failures this past week?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's say early in the week, Virginia came out and grassroots actions seemed to work. Like, everybody got together, they did the march on the Capitol in Virginia. Even after that was over and everything cleared out, it looked like that wasn't going to be enough. I mean, it looked like Democrats were going to push their gun control through, and we were going to see it fall down in Virginia, and we were going to have major Second Amendment rights just trampled on. But believe it or not, 4 Democrats in Virginia changed their vote, ended up voting against the assault weapons ban. And as of right now, it's been pretty much squashed in Virginia. I mean, there's some other bills that are, still on the table that they're still voting on, but it's been somewhat squashed. But it's kind of some of the interesting things. The governor said that he will be back next year. So this isn't something where you win this battle and it's over. I mean, this is, when it comes to our Second Amendment rights, This is a war, and it's going to be fought every session over and over and over again.
Yep.
And we have to stay diligent as Second Amendment supporters to stay on top of it. So as that information closed out and we kind of watched how everything happened in Virginia, I think that probably led into a little bit of what we've seen in Washington. And in Washington state, we had multiple bills that didn't make it past the first vote and are going to be wiped out. Those bills were the magazine ban. It would have eliminated how many rounds can be stored in gun magazines and what guns could be sold. Neither bill was approved before Wednesday 5 p.m. deadline. So those were squashed. As we kind of looked into what people were saying about that, Attorney General Bob Ferguson said Republican legislatures have effectively filibustered the bill. That's disappointing.
Oh, okay.
Right, given that the statewide polling shows that 2/3 of Washingtonians support limiting high-capacity magazines. He goes on to say...
If you run that poll in the city of Seattle.
Oh, right. So I'm going to continue here.
I would say that he's probably spot on.
Right. So he goes on to say, if there's a mass shooting using a high-capacity magazine in one of our schools or communities, these legislatures should be held accountable to their victims and families.
Are you kidding me?
No. Unbelievable. Also, the bill that would require extensive background checks to purchase ammunition failed. So that was one we had a guest on a few weeks ago talking about
Blake Manning from California, Northern California, who walked us through that process of how difficult it is to simply go purchase shotgun shells to go waterfowl hunting.
Right.
And we were heading down that path.
Right.
So glad that that also failed.
Yes, that failed. And then King 5 kind of comes out with the news here, and they ran their own poll that was conducted by Survey USA, and they found that only 45% of voters from Washington say gun laws aren't strict enough. So you have the Attorney General saying, what was that number, 75% or whatever?
63 or whatever.
63 or whatever want more gun control, and then King 5 runs a poll, and they come back 45%. So yeah, so I don't know whose numbers are accurate there.
They should have somebody over in Spokane or towards the east side of the state run that poll. I think we're down to the 5 to 7 percentile, at the most. So, I mean, Spokane's going to be more than, like, go to Okanogan County. Go out there.
Right.
Get Oren to take the, docket around and say, here, sign here, yes or no?
Yeah, but if that guy shows up with something to sign, I'm saying.
Yes, sir. What do you want me to sign? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Those polls I take on the west side of this state in the realm of gun control and gun issues and magazine limitations, and you want to call them assault rifles and however you want to categorize it. And, the suppressor one, I haven't seen anything on that. I think that just went away.
Right, could have. I'm going to go through a few bills here that did move on after the vote.
Out of the respective, like it either came out of the House or the Senate, right? Okay.
Yes, came out of the Senate, and all these passed to move on to the next, however it all works out. I mean, I'm no legislative expert, so the next step. They were approved to move to the next step.
Yeah.
One of the first ones here passed by a 27-20 vote. This is Senate Bill 5434. Which basically, this is your gun-free zones. We're going to extend gun-free zones to include public parks, libraries, child care centers. In addition, it leaves law-abiding citizens defenseless against criminals who ignore the arbitrary boundaries and gun-free zones. So, I mean, you won't be able to pack your concealed weapons anymore into these areas. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Senate Bill 6288 that passed 25-23. It creates an Office of Firearm Violence Prevention within the executive branch of the government. I only highlighted that one because we know how effective government is when it comes to making these branches and agencies and how well they seem to get to the bottom of the issues that they have.
Okay.
House Bill 1010 passed 5642. It allows Washington State Patrol to, this one says, to waste taxpayer dollars destroying confiscated firearms rather than sell them to raise funds.
Right.
So the State Patrol used to be able to take confiscated weapons, sell them, and raise money for their budget. Now they have to destroy them. Now if this passes, they will have to destroy them.
Yep.
House Bill 2305 passed 55-42. It imposes a mandatory firearm prohibition for respondents of a vulnerable protective order. So basically, if somebody passes, gets a protective order against you, basically it just eliminates your Second Amendment rights for 5 years.
Right.
No due process.
So there's a number of them in there that have made it to the next next phase of that.
Right, and these are our red flag laws. This is our red flag law.
Right.
Where basically, if somebody steps up and say, "Hey, I think that you're a threat to this person," basically they just come in and take your guns.
Sure.
Yeah, it's no due process. You don't go to court. You don't talk about it. You lose your guns for up to 5 years with no due process. I mean, it's a trampling of your Second Amendment rights.
The takeaway here is that some of the ones with more teeth to them that gave a lot of cause and concern, failed.
Yeah.
It was nice to see Democrats shoot those down, and
Right.
I'm wondering how the only way this is going to turn around is through the process is people get fed up with it and they start replacing some of those seats with a Republican representative or senator in those positions. Right. And then these bills won't continue to, rear their ugly head.
Right.
With a House and Senate currently controlled all by Democrats, this stuff will keep coming up, and it's just the process.
And Democratic lawmakers and probably Republican lawmakers on the same side, but when it comes to Democratic control, Democratic lawmakers are very tricky. And something just came up, I think today.
Today it was introduced.
Right. It's kind of flying all over Facebook right now. It's being called a ghost bill. And it is House Bill 2947.
Yep.
And it is basically reestablishing the magazine ban, even though it failed.
Right.
They're going to kick it right back in and plop it somewhere else and get it into the House anyway.
So they reintroduced it as an additional amendment to, they put it in under this existing bill that they're trying to push through, and they try to tie it in there and a lot of people, it goes unnoticed. Right. And that's why they're calling it a ghost bill. You got to watch for these stuff.
Right,
these people,
unfortunately,
these are professional politicians.
And believe it or not,
they play the game.
Unfortunately, just like us, all of us don't have time to read all these bills and what's seeing going on. And unfortunately, a lot of our elected officials don't take the time to read the bills either. Right. They read the short little caption at the top and they vote for it. Yep. And lawmakers like to hide little bumps here and there that allow other laws to be passed.
To Ferguson's point, the reason some of these failed is because the Republican side of these things got a hold of it. They wrote in all these amendments to it, right? And there was the list was so lengthy that it would take more than a day to review all this stuff in legislation to truly address it. Right. And so they're just like, we ain't got time for it. Yep. And it's politics. It's politics. It's exactly how they play the game. So I don't care how they're playing the game, and it's a movement across the nation. We're not just singling out the Democrats here in Olympia. It's a movement across the nation referencing gun control and removal of this, removal of that, and there's all different languages and different states that are really getting aggressive. Some of them are kind of waiting to see what these more aggressive states are going to do and where they land. And, if you're an avid hunter or you collect guns or you enjoy recreational shooting at the range or whatever it is, you need to be cognizant of all this stuff going on and pay attention, because you don't want to wake up one morning to a knock at the door and they're like, yeah, we're here to get your guns. So
your call to action this week is contact your elected official, your representatives, and tell them to oppose House Bill 2947.
2947.
Yes, because that is a direct attempt to still ban the magazine capacity, even though it failed the first step. They're trying to slide it back in again.
Yep. All right, well, we'll continue to follow those. We still got ledge session in until mid-March, and so this stuff will continue to be on the radar of many. And do your due diligence. Get online. Read House bills and Senate bills that are being introduced. You can go to WA.gov and all kinds of different locations and find these things under guns and other types of ammo restrictions, and read this stuff so you're educated. Don't just take a wild guess and think that everything's just going to, go away.
Yeah, when you see a House bill pop up, you can go on, you Google it, Google the House bill, the number, and they're really, most of them are fairly short.
Oh, yeah.
They're only a few
pages. Not a lot of language.
You can read them pretty quick.
I got a message here. A couple people have jumped on and said that the boat was removed this last week, or yesterday, out of the Wainuchi, so that's good.
Oh, good.
Because we got some rain coming this weekend, and high water would make it more difficult to get it out of there. So as we've had that drop, the boat's been yarded out, so we're good there. Okay, let's get through this last one we got on the old docket here for the opener, Barnum, and it has to do with the Columbia River Gillnet reform, in quotations rollback, in quotations reform, back in quotations rollback, as we've been playing this song and dance. So backing up folks who have been following us lately, and if you're late to the party as far as truly understanding what this all stems from, we have to go back to 2012. Measure 81 was introduced as an initiative and passed by the voters to work towards removing gillnets from the Columbia River and main stem. And they recognize safe zones and they had this whole plan that they're going to unveil in the realm of conservation and begin to remove non-selective gillnets from the Columbia River.
Right.
And we were heading that direction, both Oregon and Washington. Percentage allocations between commercial harvest and recreational. There was also identified language in there. They need to come up with alternative gear selections. Right. Both states have been kind of dragging their feet. If you're a commercial guy, you don't really want to get forced into some type of alternative gear process. Most of them have been proven over time that they're less efficient.
Right.
It's more work.
It's expensive.
And it's expensive. And so neither state has stepped forward to say, this is how we are going to support the commercial harvest in the state of Washington or Oregon in the Columbia main stem or in the safe channels in the name of conservation. Nobody's really jumping on board with that whole idea. So we've been playing this game where we're kind of removing. There were some other legislative bills introduced, Senate bills and House bills a few years ago. CCA was on board with supporting it, NSIA, and buybacks from commercial fishers. Right? It's like there's a process of purchasing from you your licenses and your gear. We're going to pay you so much, and we're going to get you to get removed out of the equation. Mm-hmm. And the longer you wait, the less money we're going to pay you. So there was incentive to buy out early. So as we were moving towards this process of removing gillnets or reducing gillnets, in 2019, WDFW Commission in March 9th in Spokane voted to kind of alter the path of progress, and they threw a cog in the wheel, and they voted to alter the Columbia River Salmon Policy 3620, known as Columbia River Reform, concerning the use of gillnets in the main stem. The vote was actually March 2nd. As it was written here, the alterations approved by the Commission include Washington agreeing to allow gillnets in the main stem, Columbia River below Bonneville Dam. This falls under the rules similar to 2018. In order to achieve concurrency between the two states, the commercial and sport allotments of the fall run Chinook was finalized at 30% commercial and 70% sport harvest. So Oregon rules called for a 30-70 split. Washington at the time was 20-80.
Right. Washington
rolled back to be similar, same as Oregon, so they could work together on setting season. And so they wanted to make sure they're both going to the table with the same allocations. It was the first thing. This really frustrated, on the Washington side, many recreational anglers, sport fishing organized groups. Lots of legislators were not too happy about this move by the Commission. This is last year in March 2019. We rolled into legislative session. If you all remember, WDFW failed miserably in securing budget. The Gillnet, or the Columbia River endorsement went away, and they also failed to even get their increase in license fees. Right. So they were going for all that, and all of it failed. So then they were in a budget crunch, and they had to go ask for additional monies, right? And we'll get Chase in here later to talk about kind of that $26 million they're going for right now. Right. What does that mean, and how long does that money actually get them operating for? But bottom line was the Commission made that move, a bit of a rollback on the Columbia River reform, and it hurt them at legislative session to secure funding. Going into this year, and even back then, former commissioners weighed in. There were letters written that said, without clear commitments to science and conservation, we believe then and still believe now that the department will be perpetually driven by pressures to maintain historical practices rather than moving towards sustainable future. That was written by a conglomerate of 5 or 6 former commissioners who were in place when the original Columbia River gillnet reform was introduced. And they looked at what the Commission did last year and they said, we're going backwards, and this is not good, right? So as we go into 2020 this year, the initial announcement on Valentine's Day, February 14th, they figured they'd wrap it in a big old bow and place it out there with a heart.
Chocolates by it?
Put some chocolates by it and say, hey, guess what? ODF&W, WDFW have announced an agreement, and it opens the door for the Lower Columbia River main stem gillnet fishery for spring Chinook this year for the first time since 2016.
Right.
That was the original agreement that was just last week on the 14th.
Which was a Friday, correct?
Yes, I believe it was. Weird. The agreement as we've gone back and forth between this 80-20, 70-30, they come together and Suswin and Oregon, and they put the minds together. They decided 75-25 split between recreational and commercial. So they're kind of finding balance there. It's like, yeah, we'll go 75-25 this year. I think people will be happy with that. They opted to say they're going to allow for Gillnets back in the main stem, albeit it was truly everything that I read. It was Tangle-Nets.
Right.
Tangle-Nets back in the main stem, first time since 2016. Keep in mind, a Tangle-Net is a Gillnet, albeit smaller mesh size.
Right.
So,
but I think of what they had said in one of the interviews I listened to, that the mortality rate in the Tangle-Net was quite a bit lower than the traditional Gillnet.
So they say. Tangle-Nets need to be monitored. Fish need to be removed as they get caught up in the net. It's an active means of fishing if they're doing it correctly. Now, I've seen fish come out of Tangle-Nets. Their gills are ripped apart. Right. They have big cuts in their heads, and it doesn't prevent sea lions from grabbing them when they're bouncing around those nets either. So a Tangle-Net's a Gillnet, albeit a smaller mesh size. Typically for a Chinook Gillnet, it's an 8 to 9 inch mesh size, which they say allows the Steelhead to swim through. We'll get into that later. But so they're going with Tangle-Nets for this Springer fishery. As it has been agreed to now, and I believe it was because of the amount of pressure that's gone on here recently, there will be no Gillnets or Tangle-Nets in the main stem. All commercial harvest will be in the safe zones or in the safe channels. Washington has a bit of an issue with that in talking with some folks in the know, because we don't have any recognized safe zones other than one that doesn't really work.
Right.
They're predominantly over on the lower main stem on the Oregon side.
Right.
But it's a licensing system that Washington gill netters or Washington commercial netters can utilize the Oregon side to harvest fish. The issue there is there's twice as many Oregon guys as there are Washington guys, and Washington doesn't really get to go in there. So that's for them to figure out. But the bottom line here is that they have moved that back to safe zone, Tangle-Net. If the run forecast update in April is suitable to allow them to even have a day or two or whatever it comes out to be. So they did make strides in that. Initially, what Washington, Oregon announced was going to be very controversial. It really had little to no support from a lot of our organized fishing groups. They've gone on record. They were not in favor of this. NSIA, CCA. I wasn't able to get where PSA landed on this whole thing. Couldn't get return phone calls, but everybody's busy. So I don't want to speak for groups that I haven't talked to, but for the majority, it wasn't going to sit well to put Tangle-Nets back in the main stem, Columbia River for spring Chinook, when we are supposed to be moving away from this type of commercial opportunity. There's maybe I'll get into it later because we're running a little behind, but I guess the main concern is that the commissions in meeting came to this agreement. And then we're in legislative session right now, and we just went over what happened last year. They rolled this thing back. They go to leg session. They don't get funding. They don't get the Columbia River endorsement. And they don't get a fee increase. And now they come to this agreement that is not all that dissimilar from what they agreed to last year, and we're in leg session, and they're trying to go for $26 million. I just don't know where the heads are, Barnum. So long and short of it is we'll break down the actual recreational opportunity later in second hour. If the fish show up, we do have some opportunity, and they're introducing some new type of management on days per week specifically, not just opens and closings and then you're done kind of a deal. So we'll get into all that as we move forward. So we'll jump into actual recreational opportunity. The other side of that is barbless hooks are once again reintroduced into the mix. So the barbless hook thing is kind of like back in the day Ross Perot running for president. It's in, it's out, it's in, it's out. We're just back and forth in this whole deal, right?
Read the game laws.
Yeah, take your lawyer, bring a state representative with you when you go fishing. So anyway, all right, we've beat that up enough. I like where that has landed right now. I hope they hold true to that. I hope we don't see any active commercial harvest in the main stem. And if they do get a season, it's going to be in the off channels or the safe zones. And we'll go with that. Okay, run a little behind as we always do. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, we're going to introduce Chase Gunnell. Conservation Northwest, Director of Communications, and we got a host of things to cover with him. So don't go anywhere. Thanks for hanging in there. Apologize for not being on YouTube, but join us here on Facebook and stick with us through the commercial break. We'll be back right after this.
Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Whether you are looking for a small skiff to fish the Sound or rivers or a huge offshore tuna machine, Defiance Marine has it. At Defiance Marine, be sure to power your boat with a Honda outboard package. Take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty on your Honda outboards. Our service department is always here to help and serve you as the customer. Did you know Defiance Marine has boat financing experts to help get you the best term rates on your new boat purchase? If you need financing for that new boat, call us today. We guarantee the best price, best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine also carries all the gear that you will need. Everything from auxiliary kicker motors to fishing tackle and bait. Defiance Marine has certified technicians that are top-notch at their job. Some of the best in the Pacific Northwest at evaluating your boat issues and problems. Stop in today or give us a call for all your needs at Defiance Marine.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest. In studio, Dwayne England, Kelly Barnum, and of course, Chase Gunnell.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, nice to have you back. Second time in studio.
That's right.
Yeah, how you been?
Good. It's a good hunting season, decent fishing season.
Yeah.
Busy now with the legislative session. I appreciate a chance to check in with you guys.
Yeah, man, you're doing good things. We actually kind of mix it up a little bit on Facebook from time to time, kind of keep track of what you guys got going on at Conservation Northwest.
Huh?
Well, we wouldn't be Northwest hunters and fishermen if we didn't like to argue, right?
Yeah. True. Correct. Yes. Yeah. Good point. So, you got out even got a few blackmouth as of late.
Yeah, January was pretty good. It seems to have tapered off a little bit, though.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah. Well, I think for a number of folks. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too later on. But it's kind of been hit and miss, and biggest overwhelming thing I'm hearing from a lot of guys. I haven't even had time to get out there yet, but just lack of bait. Yeah. There's not a lot of bait around.
I was out on Sunday, and that was exactly our experience.
Yeah.
Not a lot of feed.
Is what it is. So last week or the week before, one of those times, Barnum and I kind of dove into the Cooke's Aquaculture Pacific, the transition from raising Atlantic salmon in these net pens up here in Puget Sound to the triploid rainbow, which they want to call Steelhead, which, you know, I actually, Sherry and I were in Costco yesterday, and it says, right there underneath the cellophane wrap, it says Steelhead, and I'm looking at these fillets going, that is so much of a triploid I'm looking at with the amount of fat in that creature right now. There is no winner in Steelhead that has that amount of fat, you know, in it. There's just, it's a sales thing to the community, and it's not Steelheads, triploid rainbows, let's call it what it is. But we had the conversation and raised a few concerns just from a lay perspective that, you know, it's an unnatural biomass in an area. They're introducing these fish and the amount of feed they put into the water and just the whole thing. What is your spin on it? What's someone or an organization like Conservation Northwest, how do you guys look at this and say, oh, we're no longer raising Atlantic salmon, so it's a win?
Yeah, let me just be clear really quick, though. So my day job is with Conservation Northwest. I'm the communications director there. Been there about 6 years. I'm also a board member of the Wild Steelhead Coalition.
Correct.
I've been involved with that group for almost a decade now. It's a great grassroots outfit that does steelhead conservation, works with local anglers and guides. I really appreciate you guys digging into that last week. And while Conservation Northwest has been involved to some extent in the fish farm issue, we signed on to some of the letters and supported the legislation in 2018. We tend to stick to some more of the terrestrial issues, you know, fish, wildlife,
makes sense,
habitat. But that doesn't mean we're not tracking this, and it's something that I've been involved in through the Wild Steelhead Coalition. But just want to make sure that my hats are clear. I've got my WSC hat on right now.
Yeah, you do. Wearing both hats,
so in that
actually.
vein, you know, we have been tracking this fish farm proposal really closely. And, you know, I'm not a fisheries scientist. I would encourage you, if you guys are interested, to get in touch with someone who knows the science around fish farms a bit deeper. But having been involved with the policy around these, we were very disappointed by that news. We work very closely with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on a number of issues. I spoke directly with the director on this topic. I appreciated that he was willing to give me a call about it. I spoke with the director of the fish program, Kelly Cunningham. We understand that they're in a tough situation as far as regulatory authority over commercial fish farms in Puget Sound. That being said, when they issued a determination of non-significance, which basically says we do not feel there is a serious threat from the proposal that this company is putting forward, we felt like that was a mistake. We feel, as Wild Steelhead Coalition, as the larger fish conservation community, that that decision to issue a determination of non-significance was based on an outdated environmental impact statement. The environmental impact statement that Cooke was leaning on for their proposal is from 1990.
Wow. Why would you think they wouldn't, I mean, WDFW is kind of holding the cards, you would think, and just simply say, well, you guys are going to have to get an updated environmental impact study done before we're able to even take a look at what you have going on here.
And so what WDFW is saying is that once they did in their terms, their due diligence, and they issued that determination of non-significance, that precludes a new environmental impact statement. It does not require a new EIS. We feel that was a mistake. We feel like there should have been, given Cooke's track record and the operational failures that were very clear in 2017, given the new science around threats from commercial aquaculture in contained bodies of water like Puget Sound, and given the really precarious status of salmon and steelhead and orcas and other life in Puget Sound. I mean, we're talking about Endangered Species Act listed salmonids in this ecosystem. We felt like that was a faulty decision. And that's, you know, again, I empathize with the leadership at WDFW. They were in a tough decision. They have limited decision-making authority over these fish farms and commercial aquaculture. But we felt like that issuance of a determination of non-significance and not requiring a new EIS, that's not something we agree with.
Do you feel like some of their decision to go ahead and allow the net pens is because of the fact that the agency runs similar operations with net pens in Puget Sound to raise, you know, salmon, coho, Chinook salmon, and other fish, you know?
That was something we heard from leadership at the department, and I would put that in the category of things that we hear them. I mean, that's a difficult management position to be in, where you are operating a form of aquaculture. Now, it's not commercial aquaculture. The tribes do operate commercial finfish aquaculture, typically using native species, but there's some proposals from certain tribes to do new aquaculture production. We know that this isn't going to be a hard stop when it comes to aquaculture in Puget Sound. In fact, we very much support shellfish aquaculture. That's a good sustainable
and that's been going on for a long time.
Exactly.
I think the biggest difference there is anything that WDFW is currently in or past practice has been involved in relative to aquaculture is strictly raising to a level of smolt and releasing. They do not have any facility that's up and running that actually rears fish to adult for any type of market or sales, right? I think we could all agree on that. So there is a significant difference in that regard. So I'm just curious to see where this thing actually lands. Barnum and I delved into it last week, as you heard or watched us, and WFC has filed that lawsuit against them. And again, pointing out WDFW's position in this, along with what we just spoke of, but the actual signing of the permit for the transport of the fish from one private entity to another, but then to let that entity introduce them into Puget Sound. So it's more so the transport. I found that to be odd and interesting at the same time.
Yep, their authority is limited. Wild Steelhead Coalition is not Wild Fish Conservancy. You guys did a good job explaining that distinction. And we've all had plenty of cause to disagree with Wild Fish Conservancy on many issues.
Sure.
In this case, I'll say it right up front. I was glad to see that they sued. I think this is a good example of where it's important.
They're the right
to
group to do
involved.
it. They're the right group to do it. They have deep pockets at some levels, and they have the lawyers in place to tackle stuff like this. So.
But that's not the only area where approval is needed for this commercial aquaculture. The Department of Ecology has to issue permits related to pollution impacts. We're going to be in touch with them to make sure that there's the highest level of scrutiny for those pollution impacts. And the State Department of Natural Resources, our Commissioner of Public Lands, Hillary Franz, she has to issue leases to allow these fish farms to operate in our public waters.
In Puget Sound,
now,
public waters.
Our public waters, the public benefit has to outweigh the public risk, and we are not convinced that that's the case.
I would agree with that.
Right, and government agencies all around us, whether it's British Columbia or Oregon and California, are all passing legislation to do away with it. So.
And again, it's not all fish farms. We know that the tribes are going to continue to operate some fish farms. We know that shellfish aquaculture is going to continue to be a rich part of our economy. We support a careful transition that allows folks to keep their jobs and support industry, but we don't think that given Cooke's record and given the risks of commercial aquaculture to endangered species and to salmon and steelhead recovery efforts, we don't think this is a good idea for Puget Sound.
Gotcha. Yep. Let's move into something that's also currently happening. You bounce around a little bit from between Seattle and down here in Olympia when you have to, especially during lead session. There's some things going on relative to WDFW budget, and the reason I lean on you, Chase, I mean, I got to get Nate Pamplin in here at some point to discuss truly WDFW budget, but you kind of have a great understanding about how money's generated, where funds come from and go to relative to their budget. And you and I have talked about this, you look on social media, the majority, overwhelming majority, no matter how much effort we put in to help educate people on truly where, when I go buy a fishing and hunting license, where that money goes, the misnomer, and everybody pay attention. It doesn't go into the general fund. I go buy a fishing license, it doesn't go into the general fund. Where does that money go, and then how does it utilize?
That's right. So Conservation Northwest sits on the state's Budget and Policy Advisory Group. I and my boss and others at our organization, along with many other organizations, the Mule Deer Foundation to CCA, many groups, we've been working on this issue since at least 2017, trying to be able to help the department get on stable footing when it comes to their budget. We all have disagreements over specific things, grievances, many of which are righteous. But at the end of the day, we need a healthy agency to support our fish and wildlife and our outdoor heritage.
Right.
You probably know this. I know others probably are aware as well. Some may not. You know, we talk about the evergreen state and our commitment to our fish and wildlife. Right. Fish and wildlife make up less than 0.5% of Washington State's budget. Think about that, the evergreen state, and yet we can't even give a full percentage of our $54 billion state budget. Yeah,
or even 5%. You know, I mean, let's go for broke here, you know?
It's not. So getting to your question, right now, according to data from the department for this biennium, 2019 through 2021, and Nate is the ultimate expert on this, what they report is about 1/3 of the WDFW's budget comes from the general fund, so that's state tax dollars. That's that state budget that I just mentioned.
Yep.
About a third comes from our fishing and hunting licenses. I don't know about you guys, I spent about $300 a year buying just about everything, putting in for special permit points, all that. There you go. Yeah, that's more limits you can keep. So about a third of the budget comes from sales of fishing and hunting licenses. Now that has been declining as opportunities are lost. There's national trends around decline in hunting participation. That share of the department's operating budget has been declining. But like you were just getting at, let me just be very clear on this, and there's plenty of data to back it up from the department. Andy Walgeman at Northwest Sportsman has done an excellent expose on this. When you buy a hunting license, that money, 100% of it by federal law, is required to go to the department. It goes to the department's wildlife account. That goes into managing elk, providing for hunting opportunities. That money does not go into the general fund. The other third of the department's budget comes from federal grants. Now that's Pittman-Robertson grants. So a lot of that money is coming from hunters and anglers and recreational shooters. Some of it's Dingell-Johnson grants, which is the federal excise tax on fishing equipment and boat fuel. So if you're just a recreational boater out there who likes maybe water skiing, you're supporting our Fish and Wildlife Resources. So basically you've got a third coming from hunting and fishing licenses, a third from the general fund, and a third from federal grants. But the hunting and fishing license segment is shrinking. The federal grant segment is shrinking, and as you all know, the department's mandate is getting broader. We need to see more money coming in from the general fund.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I've heard, but I don't know if this has been brought forward or not, but there are those that are trying to write in, introducing bills that would incorporate, bird watchers and other types of outdoor activity users amongst the outdoors in Washington State to contribute to monies going in to manage, because in certain levels, some of this stuff is all managed through WDFW, but there's nobody in those other entities that are paying anything into WDFW. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, this is a really interesting topic. We could spend all night on this looking at other examples from other states. But at the end of the day, the root of it is we need to find new revenue streams so that if you're a bird watcher or you're a mountain biker, you're a hiker, you're enjoying our public lands, you're enjoying seeing wildlife, you're spending time in wildlife habitat, you're having an impact. We need to find ways to support these resources so it's not just from the general fund and it's not just from hunters and anglers. Now, for now, I think the short-term answer is increased revenue from the state general fund. Let's bring that 0.5% up to 1% or 5%.
Well, we haven't bounced it back up since the recession or decline from 2008 2010. They rolled those numbers back substantially, and they haven't brought it back up to 100% of funding. Whatever that number was out of the general fund, it's not even close to what it used to be, right?
That's exactly right.
And when you add inflation and all that years down the road, that number needs to be way, way higher.
And we're glad that there's not a big debate happening over a fishing and hunting license fee this session. It was pretty clear how that turned out last year, but it is fair to say that our hunting and fishing licenses have not increased since 2011. They have not tracked with
numbers-wise.
So that's another debate that'll probably need to be had in future sessions. And what you brought up is another interesting element. Is there a way to do a watchable wildlife stamp? Is there a specific, very small sales tax? There was an idea around that proposed last year, 0.02%. It was basically $1 on a $500 purchase. This is the idea put forward. Only purchases above $200. Trying to find other revenue streams so that we can spread this funding around, and folks that really do care about wildlife and public lands, they can directly support them. There's, for this session, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. It's a discussion that needs to happen. We need to have the right level of outreach with the outdoor industry, the recreation community, other groups, but the need is out there. So look for that in future sessions. For this session, we need more support from the state general fund.
We have a viewer question that I'm kind of interested in. Do we know where the Discover Pass funds go? Do those go into the general fund or to DNR?
Those are divvied up, and I think you'd have to talk to the agencies to get the exact percentages, but those are divvied up between WDFW and state parks and potentially DNR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to get the percentages, I'd ask you to go to the agencies. But
good question.
Those are where they're divvied up.
That's a great question.
Okay, I want to delve into the acquired land over there, Grand Ronde, but I'm going to save that because as we're talking about things going on the east side, I'm just going to kind of roll that into our discussion later on. So we're running a little behind. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We got more with Chase Gunnell. We're going to introduce Oren later on in the show as well. He's from Okanogan County over there and has a good grasp on things going on relative to the mule deer migration and problematic issues of all these deer being killed on the highway to the tune of 1 per day, 365 a year, Barnum. Last time I checked, that's how many days are in a year.
365? What
Pretty
about
cool.
a leap year?
Is that 366 or 364?
We're just really quick, one last thing on the budget for
Yeah.
folks to be aware of. So we're looking at the state's report of how much money, the revenue report, that came in today. It looks like
that's
the
right,
state's
yes.
doing pretty well. So
Thank
we're
you for
looking at
reminding
more than $606 million in additional revenue this year.
Wow.
That's going to be helpful for budget writers that are working on their budgets right now. Hopefully by this time next week, we'll know whether legislators across the state actually do care about our fish and wildlife and are willing to fulfill.
$600 million.
Out of
Extra.
$600 million in additional revenue, you think they can find $26 million for fish and wildlife?
You would think.
Let's hope.
Inslee needs
before
a lot
we
more
get
money to
off that,
fly
huh?
around, though. Inslee needs a lot more money to fly around, though.
Before we get off that, though,
can't speak to
Chase,
that,
the
but-
$26 million only gets us through from March till December.
That's right. So this is the ask from the department for this year. It gets us through this biennium. It does not provide new or better services. It doesn't
Nope.
provide like a catch reporting app that many
Nope.
people have asked for. It's just to provide for basic services this biennium.
That's right.
So look for this conversation to happen again next legislative session. We have to get our fish and wildlife away from these one-time funding asks and get them some dedicated funding so they can do their jobs. You know, again, we
I
all
agree.
have grievances with the department, all things disagreements with, but it doesn't make sense for them to go to Olympia every session
Every
with their
year.
hands out.
No, absolutely.
So more
Good
news
stuff.
coming next week. Look for that.
Perfect. Well, if I don't get you on the phone, we'll get the info from you anyway, and we'll get it out there.
Yeah,
So.
maybe you guys can get Nate or someone from the department on here. That'd be great.
Possibly. Yeah.
I'm sure they're busy.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're actually going to be in the kitchen for a fantastic recipe of the week. Sesame seared albacore tuna in ponzu sauce. This is a favorite. This is a classic. This is one, it's a little premature, but get ready for either tuna season that's coming and or get some of those tuna loins out of the freezer. We still have a handful that we're going to grab. And this is an easy recipe that Chef does. It's going to take you about 10 minutes to prepare this, and it is fantastic. So we'll get to some sesame seared albacore tuna and ponzu sauce when we come back right here on FHN right after this break. Allied boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Deep V 21-degree dead rise at the transom guarantees a smooth ride no matter the conditions. Allied offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Allied boats range from 19 to 32 foot in length, so no matter what type of heavy gauge boat you are looking for, we have it for you. All of our Corsair 21 foot and larger designs come standard with reverse chine that is welded inside and out with no extrusions below the waterline, so that you will never have to worry about corrosion problems down the road. Get out on the water today in a boat that you can trust and enjoy with Allied Boats. Contact us at Allied Boats today to learn much more about our incredible fishing machines.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen for the recipe of the week with Chef Kelly. And as always, you have something incredible. What do we have here? Tuna.
Tuna.
Yeah.
Yes, albacore tuna. We're going to do a sesame seared albacore tuna with ponzu sauce.
Ponzu.
Yes,
Okay.
this is straight up, like straight from the sushi restaurant.
Compound.
Yeah, great appetizer. You having fun, huh?
Oh yeah, I guess I am. Yep.
Okay, so let's start with the ponzu sauce. Okay, so it's a few exotic ingredients, but it's not too bad. Okay, so we're gonna use some dried kelp or kombu.
Okay.
It just comes out like seaweed fruit leather.
Or a roll-up?
Yeah.
Fruit roll-up? Seafood roll-up?
Then we have bonita flakes. This is a good product if you like to make your own dashi.
What's dashi?
Dashi is the stock you use for making miso soup.
Oh, miso soup.
Yeah, everybody loves miso soup, right?
Yes.
Then mirin, it's a sweet rice wine. And then sake, everybody knows what sake is, especially after a couple of them, yeah?
Yeah. I'm not even on the sake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So over here, we took the mirin, so a cup of mirin, a cup of sake, a 3-inch strip of the kombu, and 1 package of this. So that's about a half a cup of the bonito flakes.
Okay.
And about 2 teaspoons of chili flakes. And so we have that reduced down. Okay.
Okay.
And so let's put that there for now. So then we're going to add a cup of soy sauce to this. Exactly 1 cup.
Okay.
Now you weren't paying attention. Okay. Juice of 2 lemons.
Exactly 1 cup.
Yes.
Okay. I always know they're exact. I don't even have to question it.
I know. See?
Yeah. I can hear it. I don't even
Juice of 2 limes. There we go. We're just going to stir that around.
So all citrus.
All citrus. So typically you would do like 1 lemon and 1 lime and then a cup of rice wine vinegar. I kind of tend to like a more just straight citrus. I'm just not a big fan of just rice wine vinegar for this. So.
Okay. Have it your way.
Right?
Yep. Always is. At least when you're here in this kitchen.
And I'm always right.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll give you once a week.
Okay, so our ponzu sauce is ready. All right, so let's talk about our tuna. So our tuna loin, we cut it kind of like 1 bite size. So kind of like 1.5 inches around about there, about 1.25 inches, right? Okay, so then we're going to season it and season it pretty heavy. And, it's a thick piece of meat.
So it can take more seasoning like that?
Yeah, than typically, because you got to imagine, I'm going to slice this, so you're only getting an edge of that seasoning, all for every bite.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so all of that is just unseasoned. So there you go.
Pepper too?
Pepper, a little bit of pepper. There you go.
Did you get it?
Almost got away. Okay, so we have 2 types of sesame seeds today. Here, take care of that. And so we have the untoasted raw sesame seeds here. And then I have shown Sherry there the toasted ones, which are great because they have a lot of flavor all ready to go. Because, if you just ate a mouthful of these, you're like,
Yeah.
You
But since you're searing it, they would burn.
They would burn, yeah, because if you're using the already toasted ones.
See, I listen.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So we have a pan already hot, really ripping hot here. We're gonna have a good amount of oil in there. Don't be one of those people, I don't like, use a lot of oil in my cooking. This is one of those where you'll just have burn spots and it's just not good.
Oh, to evenly sear it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is going to go really quick, guys. So this is not going to be, 3 minutes on each side. No, just as soon as you get color, you're flipping it, and it's probably, you're going to see it, probably be within a minute, it's going to be done.
Wow.
So we're just going to get a little light little sear.
Okay.
On there. I don't want my sesame seeds burnt. So just, nice little golden brown.
No, that doesn't take long. Oop. Pop that. Got a sesame seed.
Don't be scared.
Okay, I won't be.
And that's it. See how quick that was? I mean, it was like, I don't know, it might have been a minute. I was thinking more like it's like probably like 50 seconds. So you need a sharp knife.
Okay, and you just slice it.
Just slice it nice
pretty
and
thin,
thin.
like eighth of an inch.
Eighth of an
maybe?
inch, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see light sear all the way around. It's pretty much raw in the center.
Awesome.
Okay, so.
Looks delicious.
And you've never had sushi,
No.
before this, right?
No.
Right. So this is kind of new territory.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm gonna love it though. I just don't do the whole sushi bar type things. I don't know. I probably would like it.
I'm
You
going to
can
change your
my mind.
Oh yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, you've changed my mind on a lot actually. So.
Okay. So in the center, we're just going to put some pickled ginger.
And you like the pink.
I like the pink ginger. It's just a little bit sweeter.
Okay.
Okay, so just so like that. One of those, and come here, you. Okay, so avocado.
Oh, I see you're alternating.
Yeah.
Let me get this out of your way.
It's okay. I don't need any fingers.
Yes, you do.
What?
Yes. Wow. You're so delicate about it. It's just amazing, Chef.
Sometimes I feel like a klutz.
Well, not in the kitchen. That's for sure. Okay.
Here we go.
Just work them around and.
Yep, just work around this like that.
Okay.
Okay, and then we are going to make a little sushi, a pickled ginger rose.
For me?
Yeah, just for you.
Okay.
Usually I just kind of take a piece, kind of roll it up like that.
Yeah.
And then just put it right on top like that. There you go.
How talented you are. In the sauce.
Then our ponzu sauce.
Ponzu sauce.
This is way better than your store-bought stuff because, it should have nice fresh citrus notes to it. So, how could you have a bottled sauce that's going to have that fresh pop of citrus? Okay, so just a little bit of green onions around for some extra color.
Well, they sure know how to make it look incredible. So.
Okay, maybe a little sesame oil because we are using sesame seeds. There we go.
And then the toasted ones.
Then the toasted sesame seeds, which are some of my favorite. There we go.
Wow.
Easy
Just
peasy,
like
guys.
that.
5 minutes, and you have an amazing, probably $15 at a sushi restaurant.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's a sesame seared albacore tuna with avocado and ponzu sauce. Guys, please try it out. It's very easy, and it's tuna season, so go get you some.
Welcome back in studio. I guarantee if you have tuna loins in your freezer, Barnum, Chase, anybody, you don't. You just eat them as fast as you can get them, but you ain't got tuna over there.
I think I'm out.
So, yeah, it's well worth thawing them things out and cooking them like they're fresh. That recipe is so simple and quick and absolutely delicious. All right, we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back. We got a host of items to get through. We're going to kick it off with a weather report by you, Barnum.
Quick one.
And we'll cover up. We got some lingcod openers to mention so we don't get caught off guard. We have recreational opportunity for springers. Kind of break that down so you understand. We got some clam digs coming up that you don't want to miss, and a few more items in the hunting realm. Make sure we get our applications in for some specialty permits. All that coming up in the second hour. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on FHN.
A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima boats are manufactured with pride right here in Bremerton, Washington. Arima Boats offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. With literally thousands of Arima boats on the water throughout the Pacific Northwest, Arima boats are a proven hull design that offers incredible fuel economy and all of the amenities that a serious angler is looking for. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Arima boats are designed to maximize deck space while also providing ample seating. Contact us today at Arima Boats for all your boating needs and let us help you get out on the water. Sterl Inc. is located in Puyallup, Washington. Sterl Inc. is your neighborhood quality one-stop shop for your team, outdoor clothing, screen printing, and embroidery. At Sterl Inc., we are passionate about the outdoors and our environment. We only use environmentally safe products. If you fish, chances are you're getting a discount. At Sterl Inc., we take pride in working with the customer to get you exactly what you need. Let us help you with all your screen printing and embroidery needs at sterlinkprints.com.
Welcome back in studio, Fish Hunt Northwest. Wayne England, Kelly Barnum. Our guests now, Chase Gunnell and, of course, Oren Jensen, all the way from, well, Tanglewood Guides, correct?
Correct.
Tanglewood Guides, and you're actually a contractor over there on the east side.
Yep.
And then you also run your outfitting business.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Well, I'm glad you made it over the west side. Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, it was great to meet you too. I know we've done some stuff over the phone, and great to put a face to the,
exactly.
voice.
Yep, exactly. So, all right, before we get into a whole bunch of stuff with you guys, Barnum, jump up. Let's knock out this weather report. We got some stuff coming up this weekend that gives us opportunity. Not everything's doom and gloom, as we like to say, right?
Nope, it's not. I'm just going to start off right off the bat. We got a clam dig coming up, and I think it started tonight, right?
Tonight through the 23rd is confirmed. We have tentative dates, March 6th through 11, 20 through 23, and then we jump into some April dates there as well. But we'll get into this immediate tide for you right now.
So here's the tides for these next couple nights. You got your low at 619. It's a minus 0.2. Same tide at 6:55 Saturday. 7:30 minus 110. So all great tides. Friday and Saturday are going to be great digs weather-wise. As I click over, as you can see, Saturday we start to get a few showers showing up in the northern coast, and those are going to kind of progress into Sunday, which we're going to get more heavier, steadier rainfall. You're going to see up to an inch of rain, up in the Olympic Mountains and along the Cascade Range. So Sunday's looking to be fairly heavy. And then Monday, we're going to taper off a little bit, as you can see here. Not expecting a big wind event with these, and still kind of probably seasonal temperatures for, late February, getting it close to early March. Nothing extremely warm, but nothing extremely cold as we kind of look at the region in the 40s to 50s for the most part. As we see that rain coming in, we'll click over here to a river forecast. The Kalawa up near Forks, obviously, again, that rain's going to be heavier on Sunday, so you're going to see that carry into the end of the weekend there and into the first part of the week. You're going to get a pretty decent spike up there. Nothing that's going to push it anywhere near flood stage or anything like that, but
nice little bump.
Yeah, a nice little bump to bring some fresh water.
That's kind of representative of the Kalawa and the other rivers around that coastal region. We'll all experience pretty much the same little jump. And looks like it comes right back down into great conditions.
Yeah, real quick, and I'll go back to kind of that 10-day. As you look after that shot of weather Saturday evening into Sunday, as we go into next week, we're going to dry out again next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I was joking with Oren that he came across the mountains and brought the dry weather with him.
Sure did.
He sure did. And
I like it.
He's going to leave it behind, which is great.
It's like you guys,
Yes.
you guys are full of it.
Appreciate
Not
that.
rainy over here at all.
He called me on the phone. He's like, "What are you talking about, rain? This place is great."
Yeah.
Minus the people.
Yes. Minus the people.
Down south, I pulled up the nacelle just to give you kind of a Southwest Washington, because some of those coastal rivers, especially along the southwest coast, are still open. As you can see here, we're not going to get as big of a bump to the rivers down south as they are going to up north. But, I mean, so that's going to remain very fishable all the way through that rain event. So if you want to get down and fish those southwest rivers, it looks like you can do that Sunday and Monday, probably no problem.
Yeah.
Kind of looking at that weather system coming in as far as the blackmouth fishing goes. Friday, a south wind 5 to 7, wind waves 1 foot or less, nothing too major. Saturday, 5 to 9, 1 foot or less. Sunday, when we see the heaviest of the rain, 8 to 12 knots, gust as high as 24, wind waves around 1 foot. So Sunday is going to be a tough day to be out there chasing blackmouth, but things will kind of recover quick Monday with a 6-knot wind, and the waves are right back down. So, you know, maybe Sunday's not the best day to go chase blackmouth, but Saturday and Monday look great.
Yeah, not too shabby. I like it. Okay. With that, we got some other stuff going on. You know, we're not too far away from some upcoming lingcod openers. All 4 oceans, ocean areas will be opening for lingcod in March. Can't wait,
One
right?
of my favorite fisheries.
So we'll be tackling that. Get you ready for that over the next few weeks. Talk about some different riggings and presentations and indoor soft plastics or baits or things you can use. Get ready for those lingcod openers. We have more tentative clam dates. So we're obviously digging clams tonight through the 23rd. Some additional opportunity would be March 6th through 11, 20 through 23, and then we jump all the way into April 3rd through 13th, and 22nd through 29th. You get almost 2 full weeks there in April. And on the front side of those, a number of those days actually start out where we have daylight hours as you go into your dig. Because you're a couple hours ahead of that minus tide. It's going to get you there about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. You're just going to have great daylight to get the kids out.
I was actually wondering if those April tides start to flip around to morning tides, but I haven't looked yet. So
I think they still all fall under you can't dig prior till noon, right? So we're not, I forget what the date is where we transition to where you can go afternoon or morning digs, but those still all fall within that that winter opportunity, apparently. So some other things going on, Barn, we got to pay attention to. Special hunt bear application is due February 29th. Did you know that?
Yep.
There's 600 spring bear tags up for grabs if you get your application in.
Right.
And are you getting out?
No, I don't do spring bear.
What?
I have baseball.
I know.
Like it's just
That was
not
kind of a loaded
happen.
question.
But there's some great spring bear hunts down in the in the Long Beach Peninsula.
Yep.
I think Ocean Shores has some areas now. I mean, there's some great areas and plenty of bears to be harvested.
There are plenty of bears to be harvested. So they've bumped that to 600 for your spring opportunity. Got to get your application again. It's due by February 29th, so that's coming right up. And multi-season deer and elk, of course, I've put in for those every single year. We got a little bit of time left on those, but we don't want to wait till last minute to remind you. March 31st, you got to have, and that's a $6 submission.
Yeah, we've talked about the multi-season deer and elk tags over and over. What a great way to extend your hunting season. So you get a lot more days in the field.
Yeah, I mean, I actually killed my deer last year out of a tree stand with a shotgun.
Right. Yeah. I don't want too many people.
Last day of modern rifle season, so.
We don't want too many people putting in for the multi-season deer tags. It's so easy to get right now.
Horrible idea.
Yeah, terrible. Steer clear. Matter of fact, we're telling you it's closed, right?
Yeah, don't put in for the deer tag. Now that I think about it, you don't want to hunt that much.
We've done a pretty good job on working towards educating people on the benefits of that and that window of opportunity, how to extend your season potential to, like, I think we counted all up last year. It's like 120 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's
bouncing back and forth, east and west. And if you really work it out to your advantage. That being said, there's still tags left on the counter. You could go in after it's all said and done. They had 100-something of them to sell still that people could have bought, and they still didn't sell them all.
Right, yeah. The multi-season deer tag basically turns the hunt from September 1st all the way to December 31st.
Yep.
I mean, you can bounce back and forth between rifle and bow and muzzleloader. And
well, it's killer for guys like us, business owners.
Yes.
Time's super valuable.
Yes.
You might only get a 2-day window in a season, 3-day window in a season.
Right.
You got to take advantage.
Right.
So it is not all doom and gloom. Also on our beloved Columbia River Springer opportunity coming up. Seasons are set. Willamette River will be open 7 days a week. 2 hatchery fish a day, and barbed hooks are allowed.
Wow.
How about that? Yeah. That's a pretty good opportunity. So
that's not flipping back and forth on the barbed hook thing.
Yeah. So the Willamette is not your Ross Perot of the barbed hook fishery. The Columbia River is, right? Columbia, it kind of bounces around. You got different berries. At best, I could go through all this, but I'm going to bore everybody to death. So just get in there and read the regulations as they've been posted. Look, whether you're follow ODFW or WDFW, you can go to their news releases daily. And when that stuff is put out for public, you'll find it under their news updates, and all those regulations and updates to the regulations are released on a regular basis on both websites. I check them frequently, just looking for updates that maybe the majority of folks, or get on their email string, and you get it in your email box every time they do an update. So you'll be allowed one springer. I guess the one takeaway from this that I want people to understand is as we get into, or when it's open later in the season when they do the updates, they're actually moving it to a 3-day-a-week opportunity versus like get to end of season, shut it down, wait for an update in the forecast and see if we get to go back in for a few more days on a weekend. Right. You know, like we've always been subjected to closure, and then they wait, and then they go, okay, we can give you these 2 days, and then they close it, and then, okay, we're going to give you 2 more days or not. Right. This year, they're actually, based on the days of opportunity and the catch quota, it reopens on days per week, which will be Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays until the quota is reached of 28.99. So, in other words, we get to fish from March 1st to March 31st, and then it closes, I think for a day, or through April 2nd. And then it opens back up, and you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday opportunities to go do that, so people can actually plan to fish. Now, some of the guides weren't exactly on board with this, understandably so. Right. Now you have 3 days per week, and everybody gets to get out on the water and do it for 3 days a week, and but I guess on the flip side, versus not knowing if you're going to have days of extension, and then booking last minute or booking trips to say, well, hopefully they give us an opener and I'll let you know. Yeah, right. Here you can actually book those days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and knowing that, we're open next week, and then you got that 4-day buffer to kind of see where it's going, and then they can open it up again. So it's a new means of, I guess, gauging how the run's performing. They give us that window of 1 month, and then they close it down for a day or two. Then they open back up. Now you have a 4-day where they can do dam counts, and they also take creel samples when folks are out there fishing, and by the end of the week they have a pretty good update of how the run's performing, because the dam counts are important, and you get those 4 days of fish going over the dam with no interception, and they can truly gauge what's going on. So
some of these fisheries, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of this in the future. I mean, kind of similar to what they've done with the sturgeon fishery. It's this day, and this day, lines in, lines out. Right. We're going to start seeing more and more of this in the future, so they have time to see those creel reports and make adjustments without going over.
We've mentioned it before. Years ago, on all different types of fisheries, they really were not, there was no willingness or the ability to do constant in-season management. Right. They would set a season, we would go fishing, they would tally it afterwards, see how we either performed, we over-harvested, under-harvested, the run overall overperformed, underperformed, and they didn't have a true measure within season to say, oh, we have a conservation issue, we better pull this back, right? We just kind of go for it. Science has gotten much better. People are getting creative with ways to approach our fisheries, and I think and truly gauge within a particular fishery in a time frame to say what is actually going on. And the Columbia is a great place to exercise that stuff because you have so many dams in place. Counting fish is pretty easy. Right. You got 100,000 fish coming up, and all of a sudden you get 50,000 fish over the next dam. It's like, well, what happened to 50,000 fish? Well, predation issues, over-harvest, or whatever, or extremely warm water and die-off like we've seen with a lot of the sockeye, right, Chase? We've had years where we got all these sockeye coming in the river. They get to the next dam, and they're just not there. Right. And it wasn't due to anything other than extremely warm water and, tremendous die-off. So the dams on the river do at least help gauge in the performance of a run, and you can help mitigate the season that way.
Right. So we all get frustrated where we're getting all pinned into selective days, but at least we're getting to fish. You know, and with where things are at right now, it would be, I mean, it'd be easy for them just to go, yeah, we're not having a season.
Yeah, we're done. Or we could fish March 1st through the 31st, and they go, oh, yeah, okay, that was your season.
Right.
And then the fish really start showing up, and then there's no opportunity.
Right.
I kind of like, you know, a little bit of forward thinking, try this out. You can't disprove it unless it's been, you know, the effort's been put into it. So, you know, give it a go and see how it works. I mean, people may blow this up here and tell us we're full of it, but
Well, I mean,
we didn't make the rules. We're just trying to understand why.
And the selective sturgeon fishery has obviously been successful because they're continuing to do it year over year over year.
That's
so
a good
it's
point.
obviously been successful. So
Yeah, this is so tough though, because like you're saying, at least we get the fish.
Right.
The hunters are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all over Washington.
Yeah, yeah, good point. All right, we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back, we're going to jump into a little conversation that revolves around underpasses, Okanogan area, mule deer migration, the benefits of monies being spent to change the locations and opportunity for deer to pass safely and not come into contact with so many vehicles on a daily basis. And both of you two have some great information, one from personal experience living over there, two from being involved in all the efforts you do with Conservation Northwest and some of the things happening and all the players involved in trying to rally and get the monies to make this happen because it's the right thing to do. So we'll discuss that with these two gentlemen. We come back after this quick commercial break right here on FHM.
Defiance boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Defiance boats come standard with large fish boxes that are fully insulated so that you can ice your fish properly all day. Defiance boats feature a 21 to 22 degree dead rise at the transom and a large reverse chine for incredible handling and stability offshore. Defiance boats are foam flotation filled and unsinkable for the ultimate in safety while fishing offshore. Defiance boats feature fuel-efficient hull designs with large fuel tank capacity so that you can have maximum fuel range for making long offshore runs completely safe and affordable. All Defiance boats come standard with self-bailing decks for improved safety while at sea. Defiance Boat offers all our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Defiance Boats for all your boating needs, and let us help you get out on the water. Sterling Inc. is located in Puyallup, Washington. Sterling Inc. is your neighborhood quality one-stop shop for your team, outdoor clothing, screen printing, and embroidery. At Sterling Inc., we are passionate about the outdoors and our environment. We only use environmentally safe products. If you fish, chances are you're getting a discount. At Sterling Inc., we take pride in working with the customer to get you exactly what you need. Let us help you with all your screen printing and embroidery needs at sterlingprints.com.
the project as it's been kind of laid out and what the goals are would be to the tune of how much money?
$17 million, given the latest pre-designed scoping estimates from our friends at the Department of Transportation.
17 million.
17 million.
There are a bunch of people sitting over here in my backyard that are trying to figure out what to do with $660 million. Just saying. Anyway, that would include, is it 4 complete underpasses? Huh?
That's here, though.
Just
Well,
raise some money.
and that's a good
Easy.
point, right? Like, that sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
It does, no doubt. But when we're talking about a $54 billion state budget, we're looking at already, right now, every year about 360 mule deer are hit and killed on this stretch of highway.
Yep.
The response costs for highway patrol, for cleanup, that adds up to about $2.5 million a year, just in response costs for this 12-mile stretch alone.
Doesn't that also include emergency room visits, insurance costs,
It does
vehicles?
not.
None of that.
None of that. That's just
So
cleanup.
vehicle damage, insurance claims, personal injury, hospital bills, all that is separate from.
I believe it includes vehicle damage.
Okay.
It does not include
Okay.
health, medical
care.
costs. Yeah.
Gotcha. But
So we're
2.2 or 2.5
million a year
year.
as an estimate is what the state's paying right now just to clean up dead deer and what taxpayers are paying for their vehicles.
Right.
Like we talked about earlier, those are only the deer they find.
Absolutely.
Right, because some of them get hit and run off, half mile, then back into the woods and sagebrush, and they lay down and die. And then
You got old Farmer John with his old Ford. He's not going to report it to the insurance company. He goes home.
Yep.
So we know that numbers was most likely higher. And it's really important to restate, and we talked about this last time, that these crossings and wildlife crossings in general, they have a proven track record.
Right.
It's easy to think, well, how the heck would deer know to use these crossings?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for one thing, there's a lot of science that goes into where we place them. We pick the right terrain features that animals are already using. That's done through remote cameras, tracking, geography. And then we back that up with fencing. There's deer fencing in between to help make sure that they can find
You're
those
basically making a corridor that funnels them to this transition point
Keeps
to
them
go under
off
the
the
highway,
highway. Yep.
right? And so it's not just like put an oversized culvert under a highway and go, hey, hopefully they use it,
Yep.
right?
Right.
There's
Don't
a
think
lot.
this is some just wacky Washington idea. They have these in Wyoming. They've got them in Arizona. They've got them in
Right.
Montana. Up in Canada, they've
Yep.
really been a leader on this. We over the last decade, we worked to put them in on I-90. We've seen hundreds of mule deer use the undercrossings there. The big overcrossing you've probably driven through
Yeah.
on I-90. That was just finished a little over a year
Right.
ago. We're just starting to see animals start to figure out that crossing, expecting more. We know these things work, and we know that in the long term, when it comes to transportation budgets, they're not prohibitively expensive, and we'd like to see more of them go into Oren's neck of the woods.
Yeah. Now, wouldn't one of them land pretty close to your property?
Yeah, there's all the way through there. How many did you say again?
So there's 2 phases that we've identified for public funding. Now, Conservation Northwest and the Mule Deer Foundation, we raised about $250,000 in the last year. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers supported that as well. We wanted to try to get this thing rolling because Olympia had been unwilling to fund it. So we did some renovation work on Janus Bridge. That's one undercrossing. Animals are already using it. 2 more phases using public dollars. Each of those would include 3 to 4 crossings. So you're looking at up to
There's
8
quite
total.
a few in that 12-mile stretch there.
Yeah.
And I would say at least 3, maybe even 4 would land on ground that was family-owned in there.
Oh, interesting.
And that's hugely important. My colleague Jay Keeney, he's one of the leaders of the Mule Deer Foundation over there in the Okanogan, has worked in this community for years. So much of his time is knocking on doors, having coffee, talking to landowners.
I was going to say, you
gotta have
guys could have
community
saved
support.
a lot of money in research and just paid it all to me. I'd have told you, right?
Well, I think we got to connect
Tell you
you
when they all
up.
get hit, I'll take you right to them.
You cannot stress that enough. The community support for this project through the Mule Deer Foundation, through the local high school, having the support of Representative Joel Kretz and Representative Jacqueline Maycumber, who just last week submitted a budget request for the Safe Passage 97 project so that it's on the top of the docket come next session.
Yep, good people.
Yeah. We don't expect this to be funded this session in Olympia. There's already a ton on their plates, but we want them, when they come back in 2021, to know that this project in the Okanogan Valley is a priority.
Well, I met Jay when I went to the TRCP this last year up in Seattle, and we hung out for a couple days, and he had nothing but high remarks to say about this whole process. And they actually broke down the numbers and showed the amount of monies over the last several years that it's cost persons and the state, and how the efforts to get this done need to continue to move forward, and how much money, when it's all said and done, eventually it'll start saving the state based on how much money it's costing them currently. And the amount of the amount of damage, bodily harm to people on the medical side of things, excuse me, the numbers, I know I had a graph here somewhere, I wasn't able to pull it up tonight, but I could not believe the amount of monies in the state of Washington alone. And they also showed comparables in Idaho and Wyoming and Colorado and whatnot, but in the state of Washington, in the tune of, I forget how many millions of dollars of personal injury and medical claims and things that happen from vehicles running into wildlife. It's just a mind blow.
Yeah, this is really a win-win. I mean, this is one of those projects where you've got hunters and guides, transportation officials, WashDOT's fully on board with this if the Olympia will fund them to do it. You've got, on I-90, we had AAA and trucking companies, insurance companies.
That's right, yeah.
Some of the local farms have endorsed this project. It's really something that whether you just love wildlife, whether you like hunting wildlife like we do, it's something everybody can rally behind.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like we talked about earlier, that's some of the last, since 2015, since our major fires, that's some of the last winter feed left in there.
Right.
There is still greasewood, there's still sagebrush, stuff that's going to stay out of the snow, be sustainable for those mule deer, and that's why it draws a lot of
Gotcha.
Exactly.
That's why it gets so busy, right? Oren, you ever hit a deer? Don't jinx yourself.
I'm trying to count how many.
Didn't you just almost hit one just the other night?
Yeah, I just almost hit one the other night. I was down in actually the Chelan area in town and just came by the end of a guardrail and saw a head pop out.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of swerved, and I pulled over at the next gas station there, and I heard it, but I didn't hit it. When I got out, I looked, and there was a smear mark where its nose went down the side of my vehicle.
Seriously?
Yeah, and wiped the dirt
That's
off.
pretty close. Yeah,
But since I put a brush guard on my pickup, I haven't hit one.
Oh, there you go.
It's such a stupid thing.
Yeah, I've never hit a deer over here on the west side, but I had a deer hit me. Literally driving down the road, and this thing jumped out of the ditch and jumped right in the side of my truck.
Yeah.
Put a little scrape on it was all, but yeah, I've never really actually hit a deer.
Because
we had a lot of them around here.
Like we were talking earlier, when I was young, if somebody would leave your house, that was just something you said when you said goodbye. You're like, okay, see you later. Hey, make sure and watch for deer.
Right.
Right.
It just became commonplace.
No, I was just over in the Okanogan about a month ago working on this project, and everyone we talked to, we're doing a little bit of a film effort that'll be out soon, and everyone we talked to has a story like that. And you put up a video on the Fish Hunt Northwest page
I did,
today
one that you had shared,
Yep, that Mule Deer Foundation and Conservation Northwest put together with a gentleman who did hit a deer in this stretch. And like he says, it's only a matter of time before there's a fatality.
It's about a 5-minute video. If you haven't seen that, I posted it up on Fish Hunt Northwest Facebook page. Well worth the watch to get you to understand truly what's going on over there. And this gentleman explains how that deer came through his windshield, went out the back of his pickup truck, shattered his jaw in the process. He had multiple surgeries. He's got plates in this side of the jaw, plates in this side of the jaw, and he was lucky to live. And so he said it's only a matter of time before somebody dies. With the number of vehicles that are impacting deer daily over there. So.
Right, and you start getting into 300 or 400 deer a year. I mean, that starts to compete with some of the hunting success rates in units in that area.
And predators and everything else. Yeah. It's just one more cog in the wheel. That's, when you start doing the math, if we're at 360 conservatively, if we're at 400 a year with the unknowns, we'll just put it at 400. It could be more, it could be less, probably more, but 400, I mean, 5 years, 2,000 deer out of that migrating herd, that is a substantial amount of deer.
Right, and we probably know the answer to this, but in the last 15 to 20 years, what's the mule deer population in that area done, or is it up or down?
Down.
Yeah.
Down.
So.
There was a time, it wasn't doing bad before our fires, but once we hit those fires, lost that winter feed, the first year after that, we lost, not the winter right after, but the next winter after the fire, we lost 2 age classes right off the bat.
Wow. Yeah, that's a heavy impact. So, well, real good. I wanted to catch up with you on that, Chase, just to kind of see where it's going and hope we can get movement, towards budgeting and find dollars to make that happen because it makes sense. And
shout out to Joel Kretz and Jacqueline McCumber, our state representatives from the Okanogan, for supporting this project, for the Colville tribes, and everybody that's banded together behind it. We're hopeful by this time next year we'll see it fully funded, or at least the first phase funded, so we can move forward.
Barnum and I are hoping to get Joel Kretz in here, and we'll talk about the wolf management and those things going on over in that particular northeast region of his area that he covers. And he's got a lot of good insightful information from over on that side. We'd like to get him here and have a lengthy discussion with him, but he lives lives over there, and he's only over here in legislative session, and he's awful busy during that time. So
I can imagine.
We'll reach out to him again and see if we can't get him in.
Those east side people don't like coming to this side of the state very
No,
often.
you don't. Too many vehicles, not enough deer, right?
Right.
So, all right, well, Chase, I know you got to get out of here. We're going to close out the show talking a little steelhead, but I want to thank you for making time to come in again and spend some time with us here at FHN and keep us up to date on all this stuff going on, and we'll continue to be in touch.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for keeping us hunters and anglers informed. You guys do a good job.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. We will jump out for a quick break. We come back. I don't know which camera we're on here. Oh, there we go. Josh is asleep at the wheel. So when we come back after this quick commercial break, we're going to talk a little bit of steelhead with first-time guests to the phone lines. Tommy Tucker, 360 Fishing Guide. He's got some really good stuff going on down southwest Washington, down on the coast, as we move into this weekend, and the onslaught of folks that will be joining him trying to find waters to be successful in pursuit of steelhead. So we'll jump out for a quick break, come right back here in studio. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute right here on FHM.
Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Whether you are looking for a small skiff to fish the Sound or rivers, or a huge offshore tuna machine, Defiance Marine has it. At Defiance Marine, be sure to power your boat with a Honda outboard package. Take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty on your Honda outboards. Our service department is always here to help and serve you as the customer. Did you know Defiance Marine has boat financing experts to help get you the best term rates on your new boat purchase? If you need financing for that new boat, call us today. We guarantee the best price, best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine also carries all the gear that you will need. Everything from auxiliary kicker motors to fishing tackle and bait. Defiance Marine has certified technicians that are top-notch at their job. Some of the best in the Pacific Northwest at evaluating your boat issues and problems. Stop in today or give us a call for all your needs at Defiance Marine.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
All right, welcome back in studio as we close it out. Chase was in a hurry to get out and out of here.
Yeah, he's flying to California.
Yeah, he's got things to do. So.
I don't envy him.
You don't envy him?
No.
You don't want to go to California?
No.
People are like, Oren, you ever been to California?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to go? Do you want to go back? ASAP?
No.
I was at Auburn, which isn't even.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's not even a fun place.
No.
To go.
No, not at all. Anyway, I want to introduce our next guest, first-time caller, long-time listener. I don't know if that's true or not, but we're going to put...
First-time caller.
Yeah, Tommy Tucker, 360 Fishing Guide, and he has been out chasing some steelhead, doing fairly well. We got you there, Tommy. How you doing? God, there we go. Nice. So tell me, were you out on the coast, or were you more homebound around Southwest area, or where you been finding some success? Let's talk a little bit about your operation. You run, I know you run a raft, you run drift boats, you got a sled or a bigger boat for out in the bigger water, because I know you fish Columbia and whatnot too as well, correct?
Try to utilize all of them.
Gotcha. So lately out on the coast in the raft and around Southwest, raft or drift boat, and you've been finding some fish. I've seen some pictures, and you've been doing all right. Now we are up against the closure here, Chehalis Basin, Grays Harbor region, and I'm pretty sure it's going to put a little extra pressure on some of the rivers that you're accustomed and used to fishing. Albeit that, that being said, some of our Southwest waters are a little unknown and kind of nice to keep quiet. But some of those coastal streams will probably see a little influx of folks coming out there. Do you have any type of game plan that's going to try to get you and your clients away from folks? Or you're just going to have to deal with the mass crowd showing up on some of your favorite rivers?
I think it's going to be tough to get around all the crowds, period. I already saw an influx last weekend, even though that didn't, include the closures. So I can only imagine it's going to get worse. Everybody's itching to catch some steelhead, and I don't blame them. It's that time of year. But I don't know. Fishing some, less known water, getting out of the easy launch areas, stuff like that are things that I keep in my playbook for, times like this.
Right. It seems like the use of like the pontoon boats or rafts, especially on some of these smaller rivers down on the Southwest coast, where access can be a problem due to private land and stuff like that. It seems like the use of that, easily movable, floatable device would make it much easier to reach water that nobody's fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely opens up, a lot more water. That being said, with all this low water and lack of rain we got going on right now, it's going to limit, what can be floated, right. Period.
So let's talk a little bit about presentation, Tommy. What have you been finding for success? You bobber dogging, dragging worms, beads, you fishing beads or jigs suspended. What's kind of your go-to that you've been finding success with? Maybe talk a little bit about water conditions. We're kind of getting some clearer water now until we get this bump of rain this weekend. So maybe a few of the colors that have been producing well for you.
Oh yeah, straight to the good stuff.
Yes, sir. That's what people want.
It's been almost even just today, it was almost more like summer steelhead conditions, today and yesterday. The visibility is super good. These fish are real spooky now if they're sitting in deeper water. So it's time to tone down your presentations for sure. Darker jigs, worms, smaller beads, really all of that has been catching fish. And the one thing I would say to keep in mind right now, and it paid off for me today, was keep a hardware rod around. Oh. Sometimes those fish are kind of hanging out in those deep holes, and sometimes a little bit of hardware can bring them out of spots you wouldn't normally be able to get them out of.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think you're spot on in that regard. A lot of folks, Barnum, will forget to even bring a hardware rod or any spinners or anything to pitch. And with the water getting low and clear and a full sunny day like this, if you're throwing spinners or spoons, Tommy, swinging them through the bottom ends or at those tail outs or whatnot, what's kind of your go-to? You kind of a copper guy, brass? What's what's your profile on these brighter, sunnier days in clear water?
Oh, I mean, I like the 50-50s, but, you know, I'm not super picky.
Yeah.
I think if you get it in front of one of those, you know, bright, aggressive fish, it's likely to chomp. But I think it's just a good thing to have on the boat.
Yeah.
You know, it varies, I don't know, condition-wise, but right now it's definitely, I mean, it added one fish in the box for me today.
Well, good.
I was happy about that.
Right. So now that you're starting to get on the fish better, what are you seeing for a mix between hatchery and wild? Are you seeing mostly wild fish right now, or is there still a good number of hatchery fish mixed in?
Yeah, good question. Where I'm at, it's really starting to be predominantly wild fish. There is a couple systems that have a different strain of fish, hatchery fish, that, you know, it's starting to come now, whereas some of the other rivers on the coast, the main run has already happened, and right now we're seeing more burnout fish and fish that have been in the system a little while longer. But I would say it's somewhere around 50-50 or like 60-40 wild hatchery.
What's your plan moving forward? You're going to fish steelhead for how long, and are you going to transition and go after some springers on the Columbia, or are you going to keep chasing steelhead as long as you can out there to mid-April?
Yeah, I'm kind of a steelhead junkie. I'll let all the springer guys get after it, you know, until it gets really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to be chasing steelhead until probably April 10th, and I'll be on the Olympic Peninsula for pretty much starting next week until April.
Yeah,
just looking for those big ones.
Okay. You got any openings coming up?
No openings coming up. I think I got 2 days the beginning of April, but yeah.
Booked up pretty solid.
Right.
Nicely done. Yeah. Well, if anybody cancels on you, you need to fill some seats for any reason last minute, just make sure you throw something out to us over here at FHN. We'll try to get some butts in your seats for you.
Hey, I appreciate that, Dwayne.
You bet, man. Well, hey, thanks for taking a little time with us, Tommy. Wanted to finally catch up with you, see what you got going on, and gotta find some time. Come check out your operation. That's for sure. I want to get out and fish with a guy like you. It'd be look forward to a good day like that.
Oh, absolutely. Would look forward to it, Dwayne. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me on, and enjoy the show.
Yep, you bet. All right, take care. We'll keep in touch, and good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. All right, doing it old school Barnum.
Right, I like it.
Phone to the microphone, right?
Better.
You know what?
I like the audio
Sound
better.
quality I got in this, right? As soon as you switch up, it's like,
it's night and day. It just looks stupid, okay? Just looks like
you're driving down the road.
Bunch of half-wits, yeah. Right. So with that being said.
Right. Well, I figured we'd give Oren a chance since we're wrapping up winter.
Yeah.
Spring's starting to show.
Yep.
Turkeys are on your mind.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up for turkey season?
There's not a ton of them, but there's still some sheds out there.
Oh, right.
I can't jump straight into turkeys yet. Got a little while.
Right.
We're hunting sheds. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. I went out a half day last week, 4.5 hours, covered a good deal of ground. Snow was all bare there, but since we didn't have a big winter, didn't knock any of the grass down. So I'm kind of having to find them through that. I didn't find any fresh sheds. Nice. That sounds good. Yeah, I didn't find any fresh sheds. What's that?
Just teasing you.
Yeah.
So when did the mule deer over there
chalk horns
start dropping?
They've been dropping.
Drop for a while now.
Depends on where you're at, but most of them for about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now's the time.
The reason I went, a buddy of mine found a pretty big horn. Right. He's like, hey, you got to get over here. He's like, I'm there.
Okay, once you get through shed hunting and you start focusing on your turkeys, you had a pretty good season last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great year.
So.
And then we've had, a couple mild winters. Last year wasn't very harsh on us, and then this year is extremely mild.
Yeah.
I would say that this year is going to have the early season, first of the season's opener is going to be awesome, and the youth is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
They're just going to start pounding early.
Well, yeah, we can't wait to get on. We're chasing turkeys this year.
Yeah.
And we got to get some on footage too. So that is our ultimate goal. But Well, finally, as you said at the beginning of the show, or when we finally got you on here, nice to put a face with a name, and you know, look forward to maybe spending a little time over on the east side there and check out what you got going on.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. So glad that you made it over. Good luck to both your sons tomorrow and through the weekend as far as they can make it through the state, hopefully all the way to that championship podium.
What camera are we on? Go Pioneers!
Yes, indeed. Wrestling, man, that brings back some memories, some good, some bad. But
the Matt Classic is a long weekend, but it's a fun weekend.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, Oren, good to meet you. Look forward to staying in contact and try to work some stuff out with you as we move forward into spring and into fall. And glad you made it in. See what this whole
a lot of fun
crazy thing is all about that me and Barton try to pull off each and every week. So, right on. Okay, with that, we're going to wrap it up. We are a couple minutes over, as we usually are. No big deal. Thanks for joining us here tonight. I will load this all up on YouTube as we wind down so that those folks can catch up with what they missed. Be relevant through the week. Join us on Facebook. Chime in. Give us your opinions and position on whatever topics we tend to dig up and throw out there for you to wrap your head around each and every week. And post up your successes. We want to see photos. We want to see folks getting out, enjoying, taking opportunity. And let me see. I got a number on here that is where did that go? William Stoll. Oddly enough. Clicked on, yep, William Stoll, you just won an FHN hat and a couple packages of worms. How about that? So I got you this camo and, 2 packages of worms, just like that from WFO and an FHN hat. And told you we're going to give that.
Steelhead with that hat on, send us a picture.
Send us a picture. So make sure you get your stuff posted out there. You know what? And also send information to us on our messenger if you have questions or comments, want to follow up on a story or information we provided, and/or need to order some swag. Go ahead and get us on Messenger for now. The swag album is almost up and ready to go, so we'll get that up in a short time. So with that, we're going to close it out. We'll see you next week right here, and hopefully we'll be up on Facebook and YouTube next week. We're going to work all week to try and make that happen, try to get David down here. Anyway, closing it out. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday.
William Stoll, sweet. Didn't even mean to win.